Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about Jim Harbaugh and his last days at Michigan. Sounds like it was not as clean of a transfer over to the LA Chargers as he would have liked. Definitely some things that maybe were pulling him back to Michigan, but ended up making his way down to LA, and a very, very interesting what if for us to break down in the future. But let's get a recruiting update. There has been so much stuff going on around different court cases and Jaden Rashada and transfer portal craziness that I have kind of dropped the ball around recruiting. Now, we're getting into a part of the year where you just can't drop the ball on recruiting. So much stuff is happening around the country. June is probably as important of a month as there is in the entire calendar. Take out December because that's where signing day happens. But other than that, there is a ton of stuff going on over the summer, especially in this next month. But I kind of want to give you guys an idea of where we sit today, and then we'll definitely keep doing this throughout the summer just because there's going to be tons of commitments. And usually, when you see a commitment right around here, that's the one that they're going to stick with at least 90% of the time. So it'll be fascinating to watch this unfold, but I want to start with Decorian Moore. He is officially a free agent again. He is decommitted from LSU about a week ago or so. This is one I kind of expected, to be totally honest with you. Is a very talented kid, and LSU is still very much in the running there, but so many teams were coming after this kid. So many teams were pushing really, really aggressively that I don't think it's super surprising that he wanted to take a step back, get his lay of the land, make sure he's making the decision that's best for him, and then attack it fully. It sounds like Texas is the front runner right now. A couple of crystal balls have been put in for them, but also Ohio State is right there in that conversation, as well as LSU. Still a little bit further on the outside now, obviously with the decommitment, but they're still in there and definitely could flip this guy right back if they really if they push hard and kind of have a couple of things fall their way. Also with Texas, you have a couple of guys that it looks like Texas might be able to put together one of the best wide receiver class we've seen in quite some time. They are leading right now for 3 different 5-star wide receivers, the number 1, the number 3, and the number 4 guy in the country in Decorian Moore, obviously. Then we have Jamie French, a fantastic player that used to be a Bama commit, and Khalil Lockett, a very, very talented wide receiver. If somehow Texas can pull in all those kids, it might be the best wide receiver class we've seen in forever. So it'll be fascinating to watch all of this. I think Decorian Moore is one of those guys that he's going to burst onto the scene. I see no other way about this for this kid. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be a wide receiver 1 to start off or anything crazy like that, but there's no part of me that doesn't see this kid absolutely exploding the second he gets onto a college campus and become the player that he is absolutely capable of being, which is darn good. But let's get into some quarterbacks, and let's start with Julian Lewis, the number 2 quarterback in the entire country. Definitely has been a big topic of conversation right now. He is committed to USC and seems to have a very good relationship with Lincoln Riley over there. Georgia has kind of backed off since getting Ryan Montgomery, the number 10 quarterback in the country, on board there. But Colorado is the new team pushing. Dion is very much trying to get this kid, and for good reason. Shedeur Sanders is walking out the door. If he walks into Colorado next year, he will be the starter as a freshman. I have very, very few doubts about that, partly because of the quarterback depth they have there at Colorado right now, but he also might do that at USC. Who knows? Miller Moss and Jaden Maiava are both very good quarterbacks, but this spring has not necessarily been what either of them wanted it to be, and it'll be very curious to see what they do this upcoming season, because USC could be a place where a quarterback position is wide open after this year. So definitely watching Julian Lewis. I think he's someone that I'm expecting to stay at USC, but who knows? Dion's capable of pulling off some pretty remarkable things. But the top 11 quarterbacks are off the board, and the reason for that is Madden Iamaliava, the brother of Nico, has made his decision. He is committed to UCLA. This is as big of a commitment as there's been in this entire cycle thus far. Obviously, Bryce Underwood going to LSU is right up there, but when you talk about UCLA, they need something. They need a spark plug to start this new era of Bruins football, and this is the guy to do it. He is absolutely a fantastic quarterback, a great build, can throw the ball all over the field, is a real gunslinger, and when you're Deshaun Foster, it's lovely to have the quarterback of the future figured out. Now you got to keep him on campus, which is a whole other conversation. But as of right now, it looks like UCLA might just have their quarterback in 2025, 6, 7, who knows how long. So definitely a huge pickup for them there. And then we have some interesting stuff going on with the quarterback position at Texas. It sounds like Texas has a commitment from KJ Lacey. They are locked in there, but they're looking the way of Keelan Russell. That guy right there, he is Decorian Moore's teammate over there at Duncanville in Texas, and this kid is incredible. He's committed to SMU right now, has been gaining more and more steam in the recruiting trail, and Texas is very, very much pushing for this kid. If they can flip him, I would very much expect KJ to go somewhere else, to decommit and find a new place to play, and I think Bama might be that place. He flirted with them early on in the process. That was when Nick Saban was there, so obviously some things have changed. But the reality is, Kalen DeBoer and quarterbacks, you don't necessarily need to sell them too much over there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think both these guys are really remarkable players. I'd lean Keelan Russell as just the safer option between the two just because of a size component. But the reality is, whichever one Texas ends up with, which I think they'll get one of them, I think they'll be more than happy. And Texas had a very, very nice weekend. They added a couple of commitments from some high 3-star offensive linemen that happen to be brothers, Devin and Jordan Coleman, both very talented kids, around 6'4 and a half, 345 for both these kids. So tons of size, SEC type size. Obviously, people will say they're 3 stars, whatever, but when you got that size and you got that ability, it could work out for you quite nicely. But we're getting into that time of year where there's tons of camps and tons of stuff going on around the country. And the biggest one is the Elite 11 camp. There is so much stuff going into this one. 20 big-time quarterbacks are going to head out to LA and compete against each other. It is honestly some of the most fun I have, at least covering recruiting, just because there's so much stuff to pull away from this, and obviously not all of it is good information or very sound information because a lot of it is throwing against air or just doing some things that maybe aren't, as applicable to the next level as you would like. But the reality is, getting to see all these quarterbacks out there in front and center, it would just be incredible to watch. And this is a really fun group. There's so many incredible guys. Deuce Knight, that guy right there, I'm watching very, very closely, a Notre Dame recruit who I think has incredible upside. Keelan Russell, we talked about, I think has a chance to not only jump up in the recruiting boards, but maybe there's a little bit of a recruiting shakeup around Keelan Russell around this time. And then you have an under-the-radar guy. I would look no further than Kevin Sperry, an OU commit. This guy is very, very talented, can whip the ball around the field, is not the most, highly touted guy by any means, but definitely someone who has the right attitude, has a great head on his shoulders, and can rip the ball around the field. So very, very excited to see what he does in that. And then we have some different things. We have On3's NIL Elite Series in Nashville where a ton of kids will come together, including, I'm sure, Kevin Sperry, because just about everyone is going to be there. I could give you a name, but it's pretty much every single big-time player that you can think of in this upcoming recruiting class. This is a hugely important event. This is something that I very much applaud On3 for doing because we talked about it. NIL is a very confusing thing, and a lot of college kids, their first real experience with NIL, or at least talking about NIL, is in those discussions during recruiting and getting out in front of that and letting these guys know that you have this power, and letting these guys know how to go about these discussions and what's the best way for you, not only for your brand, but just for your well-being in the future to go about these decisions. So it'll be fascinating to watch that unfold. I think it's a hugely important thing that more and more companies should be doing because we got to send these kids in with as much knowledge as possible, especially when the system is as messed up as it is right now. But also another thing happening is the Manning passing camp. So Arch Manning will be in attendance, as well as Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck. I believe Blake Shapen, I know, is going to be there. Jackson Dart's going to be there. Tons of SEC guys, tons of guys across the country. But those guys will be huge for some of the kids coming in. This is a little bit more of a younger kids, kind of young high school, middle school level kids for the most part. But there are some older kids that will make their way over there to learn from all of these guys. And it always makes for some fun social clips. You'll see, Quinn Ewers talking to Jackson Dart, and it'll be a fun thing to kind of break down and see what happens there. Obviously, it's something that is a very highly touted camp, very important camp for a lot of kids. So very, very interested to see what happens there. Recruiting is kicking into high gear. There's no two ways about that. The summer is when a lot of stuff happens. Even this weekend is going to be a crazy time around the country. I know Texas has a crazy recruiting schedule. I'm sure Georgia does, as well as Ohio State. So tons of really, really big things coming in the next couple of weeks. We will definitely keep you updated. Likely we'll do this probably once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on the news cycle, just because there's going to be tons of stuff happening. Tons of rumors, tons of flips, tons of commitments and decommitment. It's going to be all over the place. So we'll try to break it down as best we can. We will let you guys know all of the updates as we need to get them. I think Decorium Moore is the guy that I'm watching most closely as of right this second. But it'll be fascinating to watch that unfold. But we're going to take our last break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about College Football 25, give you guys a little bit of Good Vibes Monday to start your week. And yeah, so we'll break down all of the updates for the College Football 25 game right after this. So stick with us.